Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, Stephen King, vampires and a fantastic crime debut. It's my weekly wrap-up. So I've had a really good reading week this week. I've revisited a book I haven't read for years. I've read a couple of fairly new releases, both of which far exceeded my expectations. And I've also read something outside of my comfort zone, which I'm really enjoying. So some good books to talk to you about today, which I will do in a moment. And then after that, I will do, as normal, a rundown of what's been on the channel and what's coming on the channel in the week ahead. So let's start with the books then. So the first thing I finished this week was a book by an author I've been meaning to read for a while, CJ Tudor. And that book was The Gathering. So I finished this last weekend and it was really enjoyable. I'm definitely going to do a full review of it at some point. So this is a vampire novel with an interesting premise. So the premise is that vampires are real. They live kind of apart from the rest of humanity. There aren't many vampires left. And the ones that do live in small colonies and are kind of accepted by human society, but are also feared and subject to discrimination. So the book is set in a small town in Alaska where there's a vampire colony nearby. A young boy, a teenage boy, has been murdered and the locals think it was vampires. And law enforcement calls in this woman, the heroine of the book, Barbara, who is how do they describe her? Like a vampire anthropologist, so like a forensic anthropologist who specialises in vampires. So she goes to this town and we follow her investigating what is going on and getting to the bottom of it. So there's some really good stuff around kind of the tension between the vampires and the humans, but also just a really good mystery at the heart of the book. I would love to see CJ Tudor turn this into a series of books. I can definitely see mileage in it. The central concept, kind of the lore around it, is really well handled. Barbara is a fantastic central character, so kind of a bit downbeat. She's like a kind of 50-something-year-old woman, not in the prime of her life anymore, but a really dedicated detective. And it was really enjoyable watching her piece together the various bits of the puzzle. A really good cast of kind of surrounding characters within the town as well. Some interesting kind of historical stuff thrown in, as you often get in mysteries. It's just overall a nice blend of horror and mystery that I really enjoyed, and it was better than I expected it to be. After that then I read I think what is my favourite book of the week. This another new release, so The Gathering came out in 2024 and so did this book. This was just excellent, a really, really excellent debut novel. So this is May the Wolf Die by Elizabeth Heider. So this is another mystery novel. So I would class this as a mystery thriller. It's definitely got thriller elements to it as well as the mystery. It's set in Naples in Italy, and it follows this woman, Nikki, who is she acts as kind of a liaison between the local police in Naples and the American military, so the American Navy, who have like a base there. And right at the start of the book, she is involved in something and discovers a body, and the book is about the investigation into that death, which touches on the US Navy, as you might expect, but also on a kind of a lot of local stuff. There was just so much like colour in this book, really great representation of Naples as a place, and the people and the communities and things like that. So I really enjoyed that side of it. Nikki is a really strong central character, a really enjoyable central character. I'm pretty sure that the second book in this series is coming out soon if it's not out already, and I think I saw on social media that Elizabeth Heider is working on the third book, so I will definitely read more of these. But the thing that impressed me most about this book is there's just so much going on. It's absolutely packed with incident. Like every chapter has something really dramatic happen. And sometimes in a book, it can feel a bit overwhelming when that happens. It can feel a bit like the author's just throwing everything at you to kind of beat you into submission almost. But you don't get that feel with this book at all. You are constantly riveted by the events. And there are like small subplots involving Nikki's family and things like that you have to keep track of. There's loads of characters, just tons going on. And sometimes I find books like that can be a little bit tiring, but this one wasn't. It just completely gripped me all the way through it. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic thriller. So definitely recommend it if you're a crime fan. After that, the book I revisited this month, or this week rather, which was The Long Walk by Stephen King from his collection, The Bachman Books. So The Long Walk was originally published in the 70s under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. Now, I got it wrong. I had it down for my Read What You Own challenge as having come out, I'm going to forget what year it was now. I thought it came out in 1978, but it didn't. It came out in 1979. And when I posted my TBR for the month, someone pointed it out to me. I don't know how I managed to get it wrong, because it very clearly says in this book that it came out in 1979. So I need to find another book for 1978, and I think I've picked one. I think I'm going to read The Eye of the Needle by Ken Follett, which is a book I have read before, but years and years ago. I talked about Ken Follett in a recent video, so it makes sense to revisit some of his early work. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to read for 78 instead. So I just went ahead and read The Long Walk anyway. I remember the paperback of this when I was a kid in the library under the Richard Bachman name, and I never took it out back then, but I kind of wish I had, because it's a book that is designed, I think, to appeal to a younger, probably male in particular audience. It's got the feel of a YA book, and King wrote it, I think, when he was in high school, so that makes sense. But it's really good. It's really, really well done. It does lay its messages on a bit thick, but it lives, maybe because of that, it's got a definite kind of power to it. So it's a dystopian book, and the concept is that there's this kind of future, slightly militaristic version of America where every year 100 young men, like teenagers and young men, are chosen to walk. And they have to walk for as far as they can, basically. If their speed drops below 4 miles an hour, they get a warning. If they clock up 3 warnings, they get shot. So it's just an endurance thing to see who can last the longest. And there are basically no surprises in this book. Once you know that concept, it plays out pretty much exactly how you'd expect it to. And yet it's still really tense and really enjoyable. So I had a good time rereading it. I read it when the Bachman Books, when this edition came out. But I remembered the concept, but I didn't remember much of the detail. So very happy to have reread it and did enjoy that. So those are the 3 things I finished this week. I'm currently reading a book that I should have put on my December TBR and forgot to, and it's an absolute beast. So it's Patricia Highsmith's Diaries and Notebook. So it's just under 1,000 pages long, and by just under I mean it's 999 pages long. So it's vast, but it's really enjoyable. So Brian from the channel Bookish put up a video a while ago talking about long books and his new method for reading long books, particularly non-fiction, which is to read read a set amount every day. So to if you want to get the book finished in a month, divide the number of pages by the number of days in a month and read that many pages a month. So given this is 999 pages, I'm going to read 30 to 35 pages a day is my plan, and I'm on track for that so far. But just really interesting. So Patricia Highsmith, a fantastic writer. If you've watched the channel for a while, you will know that I went through a journey of reading all of her novels over the last year and a half or so. Really enjoyed that experience. I did that as kind of buddy reads with Anne from the channel, Anne Novella, and read this diary, this book, The Notebooks and Diaries, before we started doing those buddy reads. And she suggested to me that it would be interesting for me to read it afterwards. And then at some point, hopefully, we'll do like a joint video talking about our thoughts on Highsmith. But yeah, just really interesting to read about her life. And at the moment, she's in her early 20s, and a lot of it is just, you know, like a young woman in her early 20s. So who she's dating, what bar she goes to, what she's doing at university and things like that, and her starting to try and build a career as a writer. So very, very interesting, and I'm sure it will continue to be so. I've also just started, I hardly read any of it yet, but just started Ask the Parrot by Richard Stark, aka Donald E. Westlake. So this is one of the Parker series of books, which I've been meaning to read for absolutely ages. I had this one on my shelf, so no excuses. I'm gonna dive in and read this one. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Parker is a criminal who gets involved in various schemes, from what I understand. So yeah, and looking forward to my first of the Parker books. I'm not sure how many there are in the series, but there's definitely a fair few. So if I enjoy this one, I'll definitely read more of them. Right, so that's the book stuff out of the way. In terms of channel stuff then, so in the last week you've had my review of The Witnesses Are Gone by Joel Lane, an absolutely fantastic, disturbing short horror novel. You had a video where I went through a list that had been put up on Goodreads of like favourite books basically and gave my reactions to those. I did my November wrap-up video, so talking about everything I'd read in November, and I did a book haul from my garage. So I went out to the garage, went through all the books there, and well, actually I didn't quite go through all of them because some of them were quite difficult to get to. But yeah, came back with a box of books which I'm hoping to read as part of my Read What You Own challenge. In the week ahead then, you're going to get a review of... I'm trying to look around to see where it was. I've lost it. Review of the Big Me Highbreak. Oh, here it is, which is an e-ink smartphone. So a really interesting device. I've been using this over the last couple of weeks and I've really found it an interesting thing to use. It's interestingly positioned. I don't think there's anything else quite like this. It's a bit like the Books Palmer in terms of kind of size and format, but you can put a SIM card in it. You can use it as a phone, so it's very interesting. So yeah, I'll be doing a review of that. Probably going to do a review of Apartment 16 by Adam Neville, which I read recently, and I've got a Christmas gift guide going up, so some suggestions for me for Christmas gifts you might want to get the book lover in your life, or you might want to ask people to give you, as I'm assuming because you're watching this you're a book lover. So yeah, that's what you can look forward to in the week ahead. Anyway, hope you've all had fantastic reading weeks. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about. Let me know what you've been reading this week, and as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.